Hello everyone, so for today's video I've got another weight loss diary. I'm going to try and keep this fairly short, but there is quite a lot I wanted to talk to you about. So I will have kind of times down below of when I start talking about new things, just in case you want to skip any parts. But I'm going to start off with my weight as I normally would. So my weight when I first began this all was 13 stone, 4 pounds and 4 ounces. My weight on the 22nd was 12 stone, 8 pound and 4 ounces, and then my last weigh day, which was on the 29th, I was actually 12 stone, 4 pounds and 4 ounces. So I lost 4 pounds this week, which is it's pretty insane. And not only that, but I've lost a stone, which was just unbelievable. I was so pleased with that. I just want to keep doing it. I want to keep seeing these results, and especially, you know, losing 4 pounds is a lot more than what I've lost previously, and there is something that I've changed quite drastically sort of in the last week, which I'll explain to you in a minute. But the other thing that I am so happy about is I am no longer BMI wise medically obese. I am now just overweight, which, like I've said in one of my previous videos, that was kind of my first goal, was just to get out of that obese category and just get myself into overweight. So I cannot believe that that is where I am. It just feels so good. I'm so happy about that. Now obviously my next goal is just to kind of take it week by week. I need to get myself down to around 10.5 stone to get myself into an ideal weight. So I need to lose just a little under 2 stone. Considering I have already lost a stone, I feel like that is such a reasonable goal, and I'm just so excited about that. In my last video, I also mentioned about measuring body fat. Now, someone asked in the comment section how I managed to do that. I can't believe that I didn't actually explain how I did that, but basically, I have a set of scales. They were probably about £30 from Argos. And you put in like your height and your age and whether or not you're female or male. And when you stand on it with bare feet, it supposedly calculates your weight percentage, water percentage and muscle percentage. And something else which I didn't mention in that video is that I'm only using this as a guide. I do want to get some calipers to get a more accurate like reading and then kind of compare. But for the moment, I am using them as a guide. Obviously, week by week, it will show as to whether or not they do work. If you can find a set of scales that do that, then it might be worth just giving them a go. But just like I said, just don't take them for the truth, because I'm not exactly sure how it works. But it's definitely very interesting to know, especially if you are sort of starting to do weightlifting, which is what I've been doing, because then you might see changes in you might see your fat percentage go down, your muscle percentage go up, but your weight not change that much, but obviously it will show in that. I've now got 2 readings to compare. So last week my fat percentage was 37.4, whereas this week it actually went down to 36, so that does seem like a pretty reasonable thing. My water percentage was 46.5 and it went up to 47.1. I was also kind of due on as well, so that definitely would have made an effect, but as far as I'm aware anyway, my water percentage is a little bit lower than what it normally is supposed to be. And then my muscle percentage was 33.1 and it measured at 33.5 last week, so a little bit of an increase. I wasn't expecting a huge increase anyway, because I've only been, at this point, I'd only been going to the gym for about less than 2 weeks anyway, so that's definitely something. But it's nice to see that. It's nice to see that the numbers going down where I want them to do, and the numbers going up. So wherever, even if it's not a completely accurate like gauge, it's definitely something which is motivating, because every day now I get myself on the scales and I like to see if the numbers change. And I do notice that if my weight goes down, even if it's only a little bit, my like fat percentage does go down again, even if it's just a little bit. So I want to show you the pictures first, and then I've got 2 things that I want to talk to you about. So this is the front picture. I'm really excited to see some definition, hopefully, from going to the gym. I've also noticed, I don't know how obvious it is in the pictures, but normally when I lose weight, there's certain areas that I really struggle to get the weight off, and one of them areas is kind of like at the size of my bum. I think they're called like saddle bags, but there's like kind of like a dip in my bum, and then it kind of goes out into my legs, and it's something I've always hated. And even when I lost weight years ago, it was something that I still had and I just couldn't get rid of it. And I have noticed that has pretty much gone completely, and I really feel like that's down to me going to the gym, because of I'm exercising certain areas of my body. and I do a lot of like leg press and things like that, which obviously works like your thighs and your bum and stuff like that. So I definitely think that that's helped, and it's nice to see certain areas of my body lose weight where I haven't done previously. And then this is a side picture. Something else which I've noticed about the way I've been eating recently is the bloating has just pretty much non-existent, even leading up to that time of the month. Normally I'd feel really bloated, I'd feel really heavy, and I just really didn't feel like that whatsoever. And I do feel like my stomach now is just a lot more kind of flat. It's still obviously bigger than what I want it to be, but it's definitely not as rounded as what it used to be. And then this is the back picture. From the pictures I really can't see huge differences in my legs, but I think that's something which hopefully over time will sort of change. I know that you do lose weight from your head down, so it does tend to be one of the last places you are going to lose weight, but I can see little differences. Obviously next week when I weigh myself I will be doing measurements, so hopefully there will be some differences in that. So there are all the pictures. I've spoke a lot about like, you know, diets and calorie counting and things like that, and I felt like at first that was fine. I just kind of kept it simple. I wasn't really being hugely strict with myself except for the calories, but I decided to do a little bit of research. I really felt like, especially going to the gym, I really wanted to pair it with a good way of eating. And I don't really like to use the word diet. I feel like when you use the word diet it just sounds so dramatic, but it's just more of a way of eating, you know, the way, like some people are vegan, some people are meat eaters, people eat differently, that's just the way they live. And I think that when you use the term diet it just kind of creates that negative effect on it, which is not what I want to do at all. So I did a little bit of research because I felt like I just wasn't, the food that I was eating, even though I was eating low calories, just wasn't really working well for me. It didn't really seem to make that much of a difference, and I found myself almost feeling like more, and I couldn't really eat any less than what I was already eating because I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to feel like I had to do that. So basically I looked up some diets, and I also looked up the kind of science behind them, because the one thing that I think is important is you need to understand why you're eating the way you are. If you understand why you're doing it, you're so much more likely to follow it, because then you know exactly what it's doing to your body. So I did a little bit of research, and I actually come across the Ketogenic Diet, which is just what it's called. It's something that I kind of heard about sort of previously, but I had no idea what it was. And then it's something which I'm pretty sure that my parents did it years ago, and they actually found it really successful for them. They do kind of swap and change their diet quite regularly anyway, but it's something that did work out for them. And basically, just to put it simply, it's a very high fat, low carb diet. And normally when people hear this, they're like, oh my god, no carbs, that must be horrible, you must have absolutely no energy whatsoever. And I think immediately you want to kind of back away, because it does sound pretty drastic to have such a low carb, because that cuts out quite a lot of food. So I watched quite a few different YouTube videos about it. I'll link all the YouTube videos I watched down below, and I also did a little bit of research on a couple of different websites. And when I listened to what these people said about it, and when I read all this stuff, I honestly, everything about it just made complete sense, and I could 100% see why so many people like doing it and why so many people have found success doing it. So I'll briefly kind of explain about it, explain the benefits and explain how it works and things like that, and then there's another thing I wanted to talk about after. So as I said, it's a very low carb diet. It is similar to things like Atkins. One of the differences with the keto diet compared to other ones is the protein is still quite low as well. So I'm pretty sure on like Atkins you do have like high fat, high protein, whereas on the keto diet you do keep your protein fairly low as well. So you're looking at around 70 to 75% fat, 5% carbs, and then 20% protein. So the protein is pretty low in comparison to the like fat. So basically in our body we have small fuel molecules called ketones, which is where the keto comes from in ketogenic diet. And this is another form of like energy that your body uses apart from glucose. Glucose is the main source of what tons of people use in their body to fuel it, to give it energy, to, you know, fuel your brain and all the important muscles in your body. That is what people tend to do. You can only produce ketones if you don't eat that many carbs and you eat a very moderate amount of protein. And basically these ketones are produced in the liver from fat. and as I said, you can only get them through eating very few carbs, because if your body produces glucose, it won't produce ketones, and they are the two sources of things that feed your brain. Your brain needs one of them. So basically what happens on a ketogenic diet is that your body switches its fuel supply, which is what ends up being called ketosis, if your body is completely running off ketones. This is something which is completely doable. It's not going to do any damage to your body. It's just using the secondary source, which actually, from doing a lot of research, a lot of people say this should actually be your primary source of energy instead of using glucose. What this also does is it lowers your insulin levels dramatically, which is supposed to help kind of aid in fat loss. And obviously higher levels of insulin can be connected with things like diabetes, which can be quite dangerous for people to have. And I'm pretty sure that this is why a lot of people find when they're really overweight, and this is something that I was worried about, end up getting diabetes, because then you tend to be eating a lot of sugary foods, a lot of carbs. That's why you tend to be overweight, because through eating all that kind of food. That's exactly the kind of foods I was eating, and I did find myself overweight. Not only overweight, but obese. So it's not something which is completely complicated. All it's basically doing is putting your body in a state where it's using fat sources as a form of energy. And now obviously, you know, doing it through eating very little carbs is one way of doing it. The other way you can achieve ketosis is by intermittent fasting, which is something else that I want to talk to you about in a minute. There are some kind of warnings or things that you should take into consideration if you're thinking about starting this diet, and that is if you do suffer with diabetes, if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, and if you're on any high blood pressure medication. Obviously with any kind of diet, or you know, if you do want to dramatically change how you eat and you're unsure and you're worried about how it's going to affect you, then go and see a doctor, go and see like a dietitian or a nutritionist or something like that. Just talk to them. They'll obviously be able to give you all the relevant information that you need. But as long as you're healthy to do it, then I do think it's worth giving it a go. There are so many benefits of doing the ketogenic diet. Obviously, first one being weight loss, which I was doing it for a week and I managed to lose 4 pounds. So I definitely can see that that is a positive. It can apparently reverse type 2 diabetes, which is because it helps control your insulin levels. So if you are someone that suffers with that, then maybe it might be something to look into. Maybe talk to your doctor about it, see what they think, or like I said, like a nutritionist or something like that. It can cause less heartburn. I don't suffer with heartburn that much, but when I do get it, it can be quite horrible. I've not had it in the last week whatsoever. I've just not had any kind of indigestion feelings at all whatsoever. I feel like everything's kind of gone down smoothly. It's just felt nice. Also, appetite. My appetite has dropped dramatically because everything I'm eating is making me feel so full and satisfied for hours. It's almost an odd feeling of just eating a meal and just not wanting to finish it because I'm so full and satisfied. You know, I don't feel the need to have like chocolate. If I do have a coffee, I normally just have an iced coffee because I don't really have sugar in it anyway. So that's definitely something which is important to consider. So the kinds of things that you want to be eating on this diet are natural fats. So you've got like butter, olive oil, things like that, like cream. You also want to eat meat and fish. I don't particularly like fish, so I do eat quite a lot of meat, but obviously if you like fish, then that's it. Eggs, cheese and vegetables. I tend to eat more of the like butter and, you know, like the natural fat and less of the stuff like veg, although I do quite like my veg. They're the kind of foods you'll eat. What I'll do is I'll put a list in the description box of just I'll give you like loads of examples of the kind of foods you can eat, but I would highly suggest going online and just doing a little bit of research. Also, if you go on YouTube and look at what I eat in a day, keto, then you'll find a lot of people who are doing this diet, and you'll see the kind of things that they've been eating. You can also eat things like nuts. Like I absolutely love eating like peanuts, so they're definitely a good one to be eating. You can also actually get like strips that you test with like your urine, or you can get breath analyzers to see if you are in ketosis, because obviously if you are in that state, then your body is running off ketones, which is a good thing and will help you like with the fat loss process. So it is pretty simple. The other thing that's good about this diet is it's not like it's you can never eat any carbs ever again, you can never have chips ever again, you can never have potatoes ever again, you can never have pizzas ever again. It's nothing like that at all. And when I was like researching about it, and I found like almost like a beginner's guide of what you should do. And basically what you should do is you should do the keto diet for 10 days. On the 10th day you have a carb night, and what you do in that carb night is you give yourself a few hours. I would probably do maybe 4 hours, because you really want to be careful that you don't overload yourself. And within that 4 hours you can have some carbs. At this time people might have like a pizza, they might have like a burger and chips, they might have like a sandwich and crisps, they might have a chocolate bar or a nice like sort of sugary dessert or anything like that. So it's not something which is forever. And basically the idea behind this carb night is that you give yourself the kind of energy from carbs to sort of last you for a few days, and also just kind of curb any cravings you have and just help you stick to it. And then after that, once a week you can have another carb night. As long as you've got at least 5 days between each carb night, then that's something that's fine. So if you do have to kind of change it around, if you've got like an event or going out for a meal or something like that, then it is doable in that sense. I'm still using MyFitnessPal because obviously it has the macros on there, so I just go on there and just see. And then obviously if I feel like, oh, I haven't eaten enough fat today, then I might have like a glass of milk, even stuff like squirty cream. So you could make yourself, there's loads of recipes online which I really want to try, of like keto bread and keto desserts. So you can make something and then have it as like a tasty treat almost. That is one of the things that I have been doing this week. The other thing that I've been doing this week is intermittent fasting. Personally, I only think you should do this if you're overweight. I feel like if you're an ideal weight but you still want to do the keto diet, I don't think it's worth doing. One thing that I think there's a massive confusion about is that people compare fasting to starving themselves. Now, there is a very big difference to fasting and starving. Fasting is a voluntary thing that somebody chooses to do for a certain amount of time. Generally speaking, starvation isn't something that's voluntary, even if it's with a eating disorder. A lot of people who have eating disorders physically can't eat. That's the way they are, and it's a very serious thing that I have personally known someone who's been through that before, and luckily enough they got the help they needed and they are now a very healthy person. So it's definitely something not to be confused. Another thing that I think people don't realise is everybody fasts on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis anyway. Every time you are not eating, you are fasting. Fasting is the opposite of eating. When you go to bed at night and you sleep for 10, 8, however many hours you sleep, you are fasting. When you wake up in the morning, you have breakfast. The term literally means breaking the fast. It's definitely something which shouldn't really shock people, even though it does seem to, because you are kind of told, oh, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Whereas in actual fact, in my opinion, I don't think it is at all. To put it simply, the reason that I have been doing intermittent fasting is to give my body that little bit extra time to break down the food that is already in my body. So obviously all the years that I have been overeating and it's just stored, especially carbs. Carbohydrates are something that when I was taught about food groups at school, I was taught that they were like the storing fat kind of food group. So over the years, all the carbs that I've eaten have stored fat around my body. So I want to give my body a chance to basically get rid of that before I then start putting more food in my mouth. When you do the fasting, the body will basically do the kind of ketosis state and use ketones to fuel your body, which uses the excess fat you already have. Whereas if I got up in the morning and immediately ate something, my body is going to break down what I'm eating and use that as energy, which I don't want to do, because if it's using that as energy, all the fat that is already in my body is just going to stay there. It's not going to go anywhere. Especially if you start off the morning with like carbs, like cereal, toast, anything like that. That's what's going to break down into glucose and increase your insulin levels. Therefore, it will increase your fat gain. What you're trying to do is you're trying to decrease your insulin and get your body to use ketones, which is, like I said, producing fat in the liver. And it's basically going to burn the sugar and burn the fat that's already in your body and use it as energy, which is obviously then going to help with your weight loss. People do this in certain ways. People have been known to fast for a whole day. People have known to fast sort of 2 meals. You can kind of do it however you want. The easiest way I think to do it is just to fast in the morning. And the first day it is a little bit rough because obviously, you know, especially I'm 23 years old, I'm nearly 24. I've been used to eating breakfast for over 20 years. So it is a little bit of a shock to your body, but after like a day or two, it's just, you literally cannot notice it. Obviously you can drink water, you can drink some like coffee or something like that. I try to avoid that just because I feel like I don't really need it. Obviously I do drink a little bit of water if I do get thirsty. It almost feels refreshing. I'm not tired. I don't feel like I lack energy. I've been getting up and going straight to the gym. If I was really that tired and had no energy, there is no way I would be able to do that, but I've been able to do that absolutely no problem whatsoever. Again, if you are underweight BMI wise, I wouldn't fast. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, I wouldn't fast because obviously your baby definitely needs them nutrients, and you know, you are feeding yourself and a baby, so I wouldn't try it whilst you're doing either of them things. And if you are under 18, because as a growing child you need as many nutrients as possible, so that's definitely something to consider. The other reason that I like to exercise in the morning is because I feel like when I'm exercising during the fasting period, it's increasing my fat burning process that's going on inside my body, because my body needs more energy, so obviously it's going to source energy from wherever it can, which for me, I want it to be in my fat stored areas, so it's going to literally take them to fuel my body to keep me good at exercising, and it's definitely something that works. That's what I've been doing for the last week, and it's something that has obviously had a very positive effect on me in every way possible. I feel like, even, I know this might be a little bit, but I normally get quite severe PMT, which I haven't really had. I felt quite like calm and very like happy and upbeat and positive. Absolutely loving going to the gym. It's definitely been one of my favourite things to do. I love just going there. It's just something that I do for me, and I prefer the fact that I don't go with anybody else, although obviously every once in a while it might be nice to have someone there to talk to, but for the most part I just love the fact that I can just go, exercise. And I love the like burn, and just if I feel sore I feel good, because then I know I've worked hard and I know it's going to benefit me. I would 100% recommend that you research these two things, and even if you do one or the other, although I do think that combined they work so well together, it just makes sense. There's so many people that have got stories about how much weight they've lost doing this, so I just think it's something that's really worth looking into. I'm still testing it. This might not be the way I eat forever, but for now it definitely seems to be working, and I will continue to do it unless it does something. And it's not done anything negative to my body. I've not noticed any negative changes. I'm only noticing positive things. My energy, I just feel so like energetic. I can't remember the last time I felt bloated. I really can't. I also want to link down a video below because someone went through all the like side effects that you could possibly have doing this diet, and then all the ways that you can fix it. So it's not like anything is completely unfixable, and I think if you're going to stick to it, you need to stick to it 100%, or just not stick to it at all. That's just the way I feel now about doing things like this, because otherwise it just seems a bit pointless, and it's like you don't want to put your body through something that it's not going to benefit from. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, and next week I'm going to have a lot of like gym talk, because there's a lot of changes that I've made in the gym as well, which I'm so excited about. But for now, that is everything for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comment section down below. I love the fact that on these videos I normally get like really long comments or questions and things like that. It just makes me feel so good and happy, and I really enjoy making these videos, and obviously I really appreciate everything that everyone says. Make sure you follow me on Snapchat. I have been stuffing my meals. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.